It's going to be a football game tonight now. No doubt. It's going to be a football game here. Okay. I done been here before. All right, let's go, baby.
9. Rushing 4, ball comes out of the hands of Newton. It's on the ground, and it's still on the ground. Picked up by T.J. Ward at the 4-yard line. Vaughn Miller did it again.
Alabama back on top of the college football world.
Ladies and gentlemen, football to the max.
Your host, Sean Garmer, Gary Vaughn, and Randy Isbell.
Hello and welcome to another Football to the Max. And man, it's post-draft. The rookie minicamps are starting. You know, at least the rookies are starting to get things going, whether it's in the classroom only or on the field. And, you know, it's just that lull that happens here until we get to training camp where we usually get some kind of, you know, information about how the teams are going to start to shape up and things. But, and
yeah.
Gary, so that's why we kind of didn't do a show on Thursday after we did that big team grade show. But, Gary, I mean, how have things been going?
Going good, man. You know, just staying busy and, you know, getting excited about what is going on in the world of the NFL when it comes just to these guys being on the field now. Nothing really that entertaining because we're just seeing these guys do drills, but, you know, hearing around the league, you know, about different players who are starting to kind of shine a little bit, kind of showing that they do have the talent that these teams expected them to have and things like that. Besides that, I mean, when it comes to news, I mean, this is the hardest time for us because really there's not a whole lot going on. Even the NFL Network, my Lord, there is nothing for them to report, really. They're just kind of there. I think today we're going to cover a couple of the rookies had trouble getting into their dorm rooms. You know, and I think one of the guys had salad for lunch. We're going to get into deep discussion about that. So besides that, I mean, yeah, just kind of wait for bigger news.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, there's not a whole bunch of just great stuff going on. I mean, they did start their top 100 players series, which it is kind of a nice way to sort of bridge that gap a little bit, to sort of give you a cool thing to look forward to every week, and then they have like a reaction thing with a former player included too, along with people on their staff. So we'll get into that too. They released their first one on Wednesday. Randy, you haven't heard him yet because he is not with us on this episode. That big Uncharted 4 game came out a day early for him. He got it from Amazon, and he is playing that right now, as are actually a lot of people that I'm looking on my PS4 and are playing it right now. We'll wait till later.
I can't blame you, man. I would be wanting to play it too. You know, you may not have me here if I got it, so. So I'm glad to be here, though. I mean, this is going to be fun, but man, that game looks amazing.
Oh, it sure does. But it'll be a while before we talk about football games that look amazing. But I mean, let's get into this first top 100 players. Derek Carr at number 100. I think they said something about 17 quarterbacks are on this list. But Derek Carr at 100 out of all those 32 quarterbacks. You think he deserves to be on the list already?
I definitely think he deserves to be up there somewhere. Now, you know, I don't have the list in front of me. Maybe I should, but you know, thinking about it, you think of the top quarterbacks in this league. Aaron Rodgers, top 100, I'm sure still has Peyton Manning, right?
May not.
Okay, which I would not make him one of the top.
I think because that also includes what you think they're gonna do in 2016.
Okay. Okay, well, it really wouldn't matter anyway because he's below Derek Carr anyway.
Right.
Because he won the Super Bowl but didn't provide enough during the regular season to really associate him with being better than one of the top 100. But you got Aaron Rodgers, Tom Brady, guys like that who are associated with being some of the best in the league. 100 to me seems like it makes a lot of sense when you're talking about a guy that deserves to be noted for the future, because this guy has already provided us with a good sample size, a guy that's got a lot of upside, who really showcased some great talent last year. I think his upside is a lot higher, and this is a top 100 list. I really wonder, there may be a couple quarterbacks I may even place him above in this list, but I think he definitely deserves to be in the top, credibility of quarterbacks.
I think you could certainly make the point that he could be. I mean, when you start thinking about like the top 15, 16, 17 quarterbacks, you wonder if because of Mariota being hurt, is he even on this list? Jameis Winston's probably higher than him, I would imagine. But you could argue that they're in that sort of same class, especially with you think that team's going to improve this year. So you would think that means that the team and he will improve by virtue of that.
Mm-hmm.
Being one of the big story out of this top 100, which again, I need to remember that the way that they are not, I need to remind people that, maybe don't watch this thing and they just listen to or they just read these lists. All the players are given a top 20, and you need to rank your top 20, and then they add all the numbers up, and then that's how they figure out the top 100. I think the biggest number they said they had is they have like 18 receivers on this list. Getting to the quarterback, Andrew Luck dropped 85 spots to number 92 because of the injury last year. That's really surprising, right? I mean, he's still one of the top quarterbacks when he's healthy.
Yeah, he definitely is. He's up there in that top echelon. The problem is the injury and the prospect of a future injury. Because once you're injured, and especially with severity, he was injured, it leaves the prospect of, can we trust him to stay healthy? We've seen guys like Tony Romo who constantly get injured and have these problems where they seem to just pop up again out of nowhere. And that's what you got to fear for Andrew Luck. So it's not too surprising he fell. 85 spots is a lot farther than I expected. I could see falling 20, but 85, that's a pretty big jump.
Yeah, I think that's like way too low considering. I mean, I know, look, again, it's still the prospect of, he had a lot of, issues with the line and being rushed at last year. They tried to fix that. They drafted a ton of linemen just to prove a point, that they were going to try to protect him. So that's something to certainly take note of. Will that make him better? Will he come back from that lacerated kidney and all the other injuries that he had and be himself again? We'll have to certainly see, I think. But man, that's 92. That's really low. I would have thought maybe in the 60s or 50s, something like that. But dang, 92? Woo. Man.
Yeah. It just shows his peers are not looking at him in the same light as they once did. And hey, this could completely change next year if he can stay healthy and have a pretty good year. But right now, no one, I think, really has the trust that he's going to be back to 100% right now.
That's fair enough. I think some of the other, like I said, receivers, big deal on this list here. You had Jeremy Maclin. At 93, you had Gary Barnidge at number 94. You had Javon Landry at 98, I think it was. Travis Kelce at 91, who everybody keeps calling the next. Or Jarvis Landry. Sorry, I said Javon Landry. Jarvis Landry. Sammy Watkins at 96. Yeah, they keep calling Kelce the next Gronk or whatever. We'll have to see. And I mean, what do you think about all these, tight ends and receivers? You think it's about right for some of these guys? I mean, I think Gary Barnett certainly just being on the list, that's a big deal, especially the season he had last year where he was just came out of nowhere basically and was the Cleveland offense. Jarvis Landry as well. I kind of thought maybe he'd be a little bit higher, but he definitely made an impact. What do you think? You think any of these guys are totally underrated or anything?
No, I mean, I think some of these guys belong where they're at. And yeah, I mean, I think that they could go higher. I'm surprised some of them aren't higher. The reason is that I really feel like, that's the sexy pick for anything, the sexy player, because this league is all receiver now. It's the passing game is so important in this league. We're seeing teams go to 4 to 5 receiver offenses now because of the fact that it's just all about passing the ball. Running the ball has kind of become obsolete at times for some of these teams. So it only makes sense. You got a great number of guys catching the ball on this list and a lot of talented ones at that. I mean, I would have thought Barnage would have been higher. I really would have because of just the impact he had last year. We bragged on him all year last year. We've talked about a few of these players all year last year, and I just kind of think that some of them kind of fit. But, I mean, at the same point, I'm surprised some of them aren't higher just because they are kind of the sexy player.
Yeah, certainly. It's going to be interesting, but, man, how does it show that the talent in this league has grown and how much talent you do have if you have some of these guys way down there on the list, especially like a Travis Kelce, who is one of the better tight ends in all of the league last year. But you're also including other positions like Mike Daniels, who's the defensive tackle for the Packers at 95, I think. You are including defensive positions and all that kind of stuff. So to be one of the top 100 players in the league, that's crazy. Sometimes for some of these players. But moving on to Jordan Reed, speaking of tight ends, 5-year, $50 million extension for him. We know Logan Paulson's there. We know Vernon Davis has got signed in the offseason, but he's one of Kirk Cousins' big targets. And now they've got him locked up for a bit.
This shows that this team has confidence in Jordan Reed now. You probably would not have said that 2 years ago. We know about his marijuana use and the problems he's had, with staying clean and staying, unsuspended. That's been a big deal. And so it is kind of surprising that they were willing to invest so much on a guy that, has had those issues. But on the other hand, on the flip side, the guy has so much talent. He's a great investment if he can keep his nose clean because he's such an asset to your offense. He does everything that a tight end needs to do. So I think, the Redskins probably made a wise decision. He seemed like last year he wasn't going to mess up. He kind of kept, his nose in the right places and not in the wrong areas of life. So I think it's a good deal. That's a lot of money, but these guys, especially high-profile guys like Jordan Reed, they deserve it.
Yeah, Jordan Reed last year had a heck of a year. He was a guy that was sort of almost like Kirk Cousins' like bailout guy when Deshaun Jackson, Pierre Garçon, especially when Deshaun Jackson was out for all that time. He was the guy that Kirk Cousins really went after. You can line him up in different places, and Jordan Reed can definitely become a weapon for you. And he was a weapon in the red zone too, which is another thing there too. So it's gonna be interesting as far as what this does with Jordan Reed, and if he gets better, because now he knows he has his money and that they have faith in him. Certainly.
Yeah, and he's a versatile player. I mean, that's the reason they spent so much money on this guy. It's not just the fact that he can line up at the tight end spot, but honestly, he can line up wide. He just gives you a lot more versatility in that offense. Where guys like Vernon Davis, really, they stay on the line. They don't move too far away at times. They kind of stick to what they know. This guy, he's got the ability to line up anywhere really and make a difference.
I think we might have talked about this now, actually, to be honest. But the Raiders, we haven't heard much more about the whole moving to Vegas thing. We know that they have sold out the Oco Coliseum there, where the Oakland Athletics play as well. What do you think, or at least for season tickets? What do you think about this possible just you move them to Las Vegas and say, okay, well, forget Los Angeles, forget Oakland, we're just going to Las Vegas instead?
We have talked about this, and Randy has made some good points about this. But, from my perspective, I look at this and I say to myself, okay, this is good for the city. It's good for the team for a time being, but I always worry about the long haul. When you're talking about a city like Las Vegas, when you're talking about Los Angeles, any place that has not really proven that they could sustain a team, because around the different markets we know they can, which we're talking about, Kansas City, we're talking about New York, we're talking about, any place in Texas, any place in Louisiana or Florida usually will take care of a team. They'll go to games no matter if the team's bad or good. You can't really say that for the LA market. We've seen that's why they've had so many problems. Same with Vegas. Well, Vegas is really even more unproven. Not only that, that's a visitor's town. That's not really a town where you've got a lot of hardcore football fans actually staying in a consistency in Vegas. So I don't know. I think really Randy pointed this out. I think basketball works here. I think it really would be a difference maker. Football kind of concerns me. Is it a good idea? Oh, yeah. I think it's a wonderful idea. Can they keep it? I don't know.
Yeah, it'd be interesting because, like you said, basketball's a bigger thing there. I mean, hockey, who knows if that will actually be huge or not. I think if you're the first franchise to go there, I think you're certainly going to get the audience until another sport goes there, especially. I mean, and then also, you don't necessarily have, they don't conflict in seasons for a while. I mean, the basketball doesn't start again until the end of October, so you have all the way through there. I mean, hockey would start a little bit earlier, but you'd still have a large part of that fall season where you would be by yourself and you'd be the only attraction in town. And if, let's say Vegas ever got a baseball team, which I don't think that's happening anytime soon. We've heard every sport but baseball. We've heard, basketball, hockey, MLS has been big about wanting to take soccer there. But football's kind of been that one that's we heard nothing about until, that was just kind of offered up by Oakland ownership, which I think that might just be him trying to pressure either the league into doing something with LA, or maybe pressuring the Oakland government there to maybe do something with a stadium there. But sorry if there's a retread in news on that. I think we did specifically spend a bit of time talking about it with Randy, but let's get into these burning questions now. I don't know if they're necessarily on fire questions or anything, but just questions that we might have about certain teams here. We won't have Randy to give us his perspective, say on the Jets particularly, but when we do get there, I guess we can ask him when. Who knows how much this Uncharted will be consuming him. I mean, that story mode's really short, so he could also finish it over the weekend, and then you're kind of done with that game. But so let's start, I guess, where we are most familiar, Gary. I'm gonna try to time this as well. Try to time it to where we don't spend more than like a couple minutes, 2 or 3 minutes on each question. We have quite a few things here with the Cowboys. First of all, they do not go with putting Jalen Smith on IR. I guess, let's say even if the Cowboys get to the playoffs, do you see Jalen Smith playing at all?
I really don't think so. I think this whole plan is really honestly, he doesn't have to be on IR. He can be around, he can practice with the team or at least be around the team when they're practicing, do all these things without being IR. You can actually put him on PUP all the way up until I think 6 weeks or 8 weeks into the season, and then you can put him on another list. It was a whole explanation, but long story short,
it's a non-football injury list.
Yes, exactly, and that's what I think he's on now, if not in the near future. So I don't find a big deal. People are making a big deal about it. Who cares? I mean, the guy's probably, and I would say most likely not playing, even if they're in the playoffs. He can't come in cold and expect to be ready to go for playoff football.
Yeah, I think it's too difficult in that aspect. You're expecting a rookie, to come on. I know he's a highly talented guy. He was going to go in the top 5 of the draft if he was healthy and all that stuff. But to come in first time playoff football, where a mistake can cost you a game that ends your season, and just, if you re-injure it there, then you didn't even get to play. Like, at least, you could have the whole preseason and all that stuff, all the training camp next year and all that stuff. I mean, I know that everybody wants to see him. They want to see if the knee is going to refire and the nerves and all that stuff. But I think the Cowboys know he's not playing. I think they knew he wasn't playing when they drafted him. It's just all about, I think, kind of massaging the hearts and minds of the fan base that isn't so level-headed like we are, to kind of, that are freaking out about the fact that, oh my God, you wasted a pick on a player that's not playing until 2017, maybe. How could you do that? How could you just have a guy that's going to be on IR all year? They're going on the upside. And sometimes you have to do that with draft picks.
Exactly, and they had to try to trade for Lynch, and if they would have got Lynch, they would have lost their second, probably third-round pick. So they kind of said, hey, let's just pretend like we lost it, and hey, let's take a risk.
Well, that being said, because they did get to keep that third-rounder, and they do have Malik Collins because of it. Malik Collins is going to be a productive player for the Cowboys this season.
Yes, he will. He's going to play 3 technique on that defensive line, and he's going to be a guy that can help maybe change some things, because we all know that the Cowboys are going to be without their starting defensive ends. Randy Gregory, and of course, you got Lawrence on the other side who's not going to be playing. So what you're going to do is you're going to probably have Malik Collins play the 3 technique and have Crawford go to the outside on defensive end. This will probably help the rotation. Help spread out the offensive line a little bit. So that's a positive thing. I think the Cowboys are really hoping this kid comes out strong. That way he can take that spot.
What do the Cowboys do with the running back situation? Now you have Ezekiel Elliott. You've got overload running backs, or you got 4 that, you've signed for some money. Dunbar's come back from the injury. And, you got Rod Smith there. You've got the fullback there. You can't keep all these guys.
Dallas is what they're going to. Here's the plan. Rod Smith has actually been moved to fullback, so he is kind of not really in the category. I guess you would say.
He's the brother of Jalen Smith, so they kind of want to keep him around.
Yeah, exactly. And then they also moved one of their linebackers, Keith Smith, to a fullback to try him out there as well. I'm talking about the running backs themselves, though. We have the rookie running back where everybody was like, "You're a god. Why would you draft a running back? You're already too packed at that position." We're looking at Lance Dunbar probably being on PUP for the first 4 to 6 games of the season without even having to, get ready and being training camp. We already kind of know that. So that takes a running back out of the rotation. That leaves Ezekiel Elliott. That leaves Morris and, of course, McFadden. So you got those three. Those will probably be your top 3 guys, and the rookie will probably hit the, practice squad, if not, acquired by somebody else.
Oh, you mean the 6th-round pick?
Yes, exactly.
What do they do with Dunbar when he comes back? Do they keep 4 running backs on the roster?
I think it all depends on the rotation, how things are going. I kind of feel like that Dunbar does offer them something, but if these guys are a well-oiled machine and Dunbar really doesn't fit well right into this, I would not be surprised if Dunbar's the guy. Maybe they release Dunbar or they release McFadden. One of the two. I think those are the 2 guys that are going to be on limbo with this team.
Yeah, I think how Morris accepts this role now, instead of feeling like he was competing against McFadden for that number 1 spot, is going to be interesting, because if he doesn't accept it in a good way, he could be the one that goes out, because we already know McFadden's used to this. Last year he didn't know if he wasn't going to play more than the couple snaps or whatever, and he really had nothing to go on because he was coming off all those injury-plagued years or whatever. Now that he knows that he carried the load last year, and he's still sort of seemingly accepting of the role of kind of helping Ezekiel Elliott along. We haven't heard nothing from Alfred Morris about how he feels about this, and if he takes this in a bad way, or he finds himself number 3 in the depth chart, and we start, I'm not saying he's going to be Joseph Randle, but if he starts having issues, it might make it really easy to just go, okay, right, well, I know we paid you the most money right now, other than whatever they're going to pay Elliott, but we'll just release you and keep the other 3. So, I'd hate for them to release McFadden when you know what production you're getting from him. I know you have the injury scare there of past history, but Morris didn't have the greatest years either last year.
In my personal opinion, it's really going to lay down for who has better production. If McFadden comes in and continues to showcase that I still have a spot, I would not be surprised if Dunbar is cut, because Dunbar is a guy that's going to be up for free agency again next year. He's only on a 1-year deal right now. Yeah. So, I mean, that's an easy way to get rid of a guy.
And the biggest one that I've heard talked about a lot, and I think there's credence to this in that, okay, preseason, we know Romo probably not going to play a whole lot. Do you put Dak Prescott as the number 2 in preseason and have him play the bulk of the snaps? Now, we've heard Jerry say that Kellen Moore is the number 2 guy. Or do you have Kellen Moore be that number 2 and you only see Dak Prescott in like the 4th quarter or something? Or, I mean, you did invest a 4th-round pick on this guy. You want to be the future. Why wouldn't you go ahead and have him start sort of accepting that role now? And you kind of know what you have with Kellen Moore. I mean,
that's the thing. And if you're talking about an injury, the 2nd, 3rd, 4th game of the year, and Romo's down, you're going to want to go with the guy that has the most experience with this offense, the guy that has actually played snaps under center with this team in live action football, which happened last year with Kellen Moore. I think that's why they go with him. They got to go with a veteran. And not that Prescott probably couldn't step in and help, but he's fresh, he's new, he's got to learn all the different intricacies of the offense. The guy didn't play under center a whole lot in college, let's be honest. That's a whole other issue. I mean, yeah, sure, he's going to have training camp, but there's a difference between playing in training camp and getting out there and really doing it in live action. I think he's going to have to take some time, really get himself prepared. I feel like if it's not Kellen Moore, I really don't even think it's going to be Dak Prescott unless, they're just doing 4th quarter snaps like you said. It wouldn't even surprise me if they didn't go get him another veteran quarterback.
Yeah, that's been talked about as well, about them possibly getting somebody and Prescott becomes the total developmental guy, and you have Kellen Moore just third behind whoever. So, it's all about Scott Linehan and if he can be in somebody's ear, really, because we know he really loves Kellen Moore. But moving away from the Cowboys, Randy's we'll put the Jets to the side. Right now, there's a lot of people talking about the quarterback in Denver, and I think that's sort of whatever it is. I think the more interesting thing is the running backs over there for Denver. You've got what is it? Is it Devontae Booker or Kenneth Dixon? I can't remember which one it is. The rookie that was drafted.
As Booker.
Yeah, you got Devontae Booker, who we know he can be a pass catching threat. You spent a 4th round pick on him. You've got C.J. Anderson, who you made sure that you re-signed and kept him away from the Dolphins, and you got Ronnie Hillman, who you signed on a 1-year deal. I mean, who do you think is going to be? Do they sit the rookie, or is Hillman or Anderson one of the odd men out here?
I really think C.J. Anderson's going to be to get the bulk of the carries here. Hillman, to me, would be the odd man out, if anybody's the odd man out, because I think the rookie's going to get his opportunities as well. So I look at this and say, kind of like we were talking about with Dallas, who's the guy with a 1-year deal, the guy that, may not have a strong future with his team. Let's go ahead and, rotate the guys that do have a future here, and I think that's going to work out in their favor. Denver always rotates the running backs, every game, so everybody's going to get an opportunity.
Yeah, I think you kind of hit it on the head. I thought, Ronnie Hillman being on the 1-year deal, they know they've got Booker for a while, and especially as C.J. Anderson kept kind of getting better, and they relied on him more. You saw less and less of Hillman. So I think, if Devontae Booker kind of tears it up a little bit in the preseason, we could see Hillman really be that third guy and not used a whole lot. So,
No, I agree with you. And I want you to kind of tell me what you think about this, because, this matters to the running game is when you have a new quarterback in play in your offense, whereas they do now, they're going to have Sanchez in there, and he's going to be playing this game. From what you've seen out of Sanchez and how he handles offenses, and, of course, this running game, do you think that this group of backs are going to complement Sanchez, or are we going to see some issues?
Well, it just depends. It's that whole thing of what is the mentality for that team? Is it – we saw with Osweiler, they tried all they could to make it to where Osweiler didn't have to pass as much. When the running game wouldn't work, then they obviously, he was forced to have to throw. Mark Sanchez, you would think that they're going to try to do the same thing here. If the running game works, then fine. It makes it easier for him. If it doesn't, then that's where you put him in that problem. I think they're going to be fine. That's more on the offensive line, I think, than if they open up the holes for the guys, then that means Sanchez will have an easier way of playing. If Sanchez starts throwing the ball around and making interceptions, then you've got problems, right? Because they start stacking the box and making it harder for the running backs.
Yeah, it's I think Sanchez is going to be do what he does. He's fine. He did a great job when he was with the Eagles. But I think it also kind of affected the running game to an extent too. But I think it's going to be kind of curious. Kind of one of those curious things throughout the season of how that's going to all balance out. Because once again, when they had Osweiler there and of course Manning, the running game did flourish at times.
Yeah, certainly. Let's move on to the defensive side of the ball. And the Jaguars are saying that they're expecting Myles Jack to play outside linebacker, that they put him in the middle so that he can learn the defense, and that he seems to be doing fine, that they don't foresee any problems with him right now. Do you see Myles Jack as possibly being that defensive rookie of the year?
Oh, he's one of the guys that definitely has that opportunity. The only reason he didn't go to on the top of this draft, one of the top 10, he made one of the top 5, is because of that knee injury. and he's healthy now. He's going to be able to play day one. This is not a Jalen Smith situation. I mean, he's ready to go right now. Saying that, I mean, I think this is going to be bearing what happens with his knee. And now this year, I think he could probably make it the entire year okay, and I think he definitely would be a candidate of Defensive Rookie of the Year. I could totally see that. You just never know with his knee. It's a ticking time bomb. I mean, we'll know what happens as the games go by. So.
Yeah, I mean, he also has, his buddy over there in Jalen Ramsey, who will be competing for that same honor, I'm sure. Just think that, Myles Jack, if he's really able to kind of be himself, and he can kind of be all over the field, and we know they can kind of use him wherever, and he has the potential to make a lot of plays. So, it's possible with the way they revamped that defense over there in Jacksonville.
Mm-hmm.
He could be that guy that we're talking about. Now, Adrian Peterson kind of came out and had some interesting things to say, saying that he thinks that the Vikings can win everything this year, which would mean he thinks the Vikings can win the Super Bowl. Do you think the Vikings could legitimately win the Super Bowl this year?
The way the league is working out right now at this moment, it's a possibility for sure. Do I personally believe it? I don't know that they're there yet. I think last year they were on the cusp of doing something really great. I think that they're going to be, probably a little bit better this year. They did some pretty good things in their draft, so I feel more confident in them. But I don't know. I'm not really ready to say that they are Super Bowl bound just yet. But I do think they're definitely improved, and I think they're a team that is definitely playoff bound.
Yeah, I mean, the Bears still have some issues. I think definitely. The Lions, now without Calvin Johnson, are those receivers going to be able to? I mean, it could make that offense much better for all we know. I mean, they did start to click but not having that big body of Johnson out there to kind of take defenders away, is that going to, create easier matchups for those defenders? I mean, is Brandon Tate Brandon Tate? What's his name? Jesus, why can't I think right now?
Yeah, I just don't want to step
Marvin
on Diggs.
Jones. Marvin Jones and Golden Tate going to be enough
for Detroit.
For Detroit. And, is the defense going to improve enough over there? And then, I think the Vikings definitely, with adding Treadwell and Diggs, I mean, that's definitely going to improve the, Teddy Bridgewater's chances of being a better quarterback. We know they can. The problem was, will they protect him well enough? I mean, they did add a lot to that offensive line, so, can Andre Smith and the rest of those guys gel and do that? And, Adrian Peterson, is he going to be the same Adrian Peterson of last year? He's a year older. That's a thing you got to think about, too. And, that defense is the thing that stands out. When you have a really good defense, and if Bridgewater can be okay and not make mistakes and kind of just lead the team to help them get the win, and you rely on Peterson again and he can be what you think he's going to be, you definitely got the makeup, that same makeup the Broncos had last year of being able to make the playoffs. And once you're there, you never know. I mean, they were a 19-yard field goal away from advancing to the next round. And yes, you would probably say that they would have lost to whichever team they were facing, but you never know. So they've got to feel good about their chances. And I don't know about saying they're going to win Super Bowl, but would not be surprised in the way too early predicting maybe conference championship game for these guys.
Yeah, that could be interesting for sure. And once again, it is a big possibility. Adrian Peterson, this guy, he's definitely one of the biggest backbones of this team. And I think if, he produces well, they'll produce well. And, he thinks he can produce for a long time from now, Sean. He thinks he can go even up to 40 and play this game at a high level.
Wow. That's a lot to say, considering the way that, he's already had the ACL. And, we know how much Peterson runs. and how much wear he puts on his body to say that he's going to make it all the way to 40. Wow, that's bold right there.
Oh yeah.
I mean, I think that's even more bold than, Tom Brady and Drew Brees saying they're going to play to 45. I mean, you could see that possibly happening. I don't know about playing till you're 40 as a running back.
Yeah, it's a little bit sketchy, and this guy, as good as he is, has had a lot of tread on those tires, and a lot of it's rubbed off, and he's trying to make his way, and be the all-time leading rusher, and I'm sure he's going to do everything he can to do that, but it's tough on running backs because their bodies take so much abuse, and so we'll see if he can stay healthy. He has that opportunity, but little injuries pop up when you get older.
Certainly. I mean, so, we a lot was made of, the Rams taking Jared Goff. Number one, you pair a bunch of receivers with him. You get the tight end to go with him too. So you have an offense that's all around that same age to kind of grow with Jared Goff, or you'd expect. You already have guys there. So saying all that, because of this draft, you didn't have that many picks, and do you think that the Rams do better than 7-9 this season with Jared Goff?
It is a difficult prediction because 7-9 seems right about where they could stay.
Yeah,
because
and it's not like the Seahawks and Cardinals got any worse.
Yeah, because you're exactly right. The division's tough. They've got a rookie quarterback. I keep hearing, Jim's doing great in camp. He's really working hard. He's learning the playbook. It's becoming second nature, and that sounds great and dandy. That's not live football. Sorry, it's just not live football. We have no idea what he's going to do when he gets out there and live rounds are coming his way. Defensive tackles getting in his face, the defensive ends coming from behind to grab him. We don't know how much pressure he can take. So saying all that, I think it's great, and it's nice to have a new quarterback. But you think you got to kind of put your expectations down a little bit. I think 7-9 is probably right where they should be, if not 8-8. And you got Todd Gurley, who's going to give a big spark for this offense. I think they did some great things when it came to adding some receivers, doing those positive things for their offense. I just don't know if they're ready to go over the hump, though, and, make it to that next level just yet.
Yeah, it's an interesting thing with Goff. I think, are these receivers and the tight ends going to be able to adapt with him? He already has some. He's got he's got Tavon Austin he's got to figure out what to do with in that offense, and you got a Lance Kendrick still there. He's a pretty good tight end, and you still got a Stedman Bailey who's coming off the shooting thing, and Brian Quick, who they re-signed. So you got to figure out where to put all these guys, and Farrell Cooper is going to be interesting when you implement him in there. But all these weapons that you now have on offense, how are you going to implement all that? Are they going to be able to gel with each other? The offensive line, all that stuff with Goff. Is the defense, who's missing pieces now, they going to be as good as last year? And like I said, Seattle and Cardinals, you'd expect that they would at least do what you expect them to be, which is really good teams. I don't know about Seattle doing the same thing last year. I would expect that they'd learn from that and be better. That's going to be hard for them to say. I think they could definitely get to 8-8, which would mean that they would have done better by default. But maybe a winning season, 9-7, but just I still think they missed the playoffs.
Yeah, I'm with you on that.
What do they have? They have a weird schedule. They only go to LA twice in the first, I want to say 8 weeks or so, because they have that London game too. That's crazy. That you don't even get home games for a long time either. So you got to be on the road, coming all the way from LA, which is, those are long flights as well.
Oh yeah.
And also, the Browns and Jets have interesting things at quarterback there, with having a lot of quarterbacks, and you got to figure out now who is going to be that one that takes the reins on the first day. The Browns, they have Robert Griffin III, they have Josh McCown, they have Austin Davis and another guy there, and Cody Kessler as well. I mean, so who do you think winds up being the starter, and who do you think does McCown definitely stay, or do they let him go and you keep some of the other younger guys, or what do you think? You think RG3 definitely starts?
I think so. Yeah, I mean they pay him a pretty decent amount of money here to start, and I think it's an investment, if you ask me personally, because I think they feel like that really the Redskins didn't use this guy right and all that stuff you've heard before. So that's nothing new to anybody. Really, for me, it's a testing ground. It's to see what they can, try to get out of RG3, and if they don't get what they want out of him, maybe they can on down the line try to get back into the game of drafting a good quarterback. But that was yet to be seen either. So. It's interesting. It really is, and I think that RG3 is their man until he proves them otherwise.
Yeah, I think RG3 has done everything you ask him to do. I mean, he obviously hasn't, again, faced live competition to see how he reacts to that, to see if his mobility is good enough, because, you have all those rules now with the practice and what you can do and all that kind of stuff, so... I mean, as much as you try in scrimmage, it's still not the same. It's nowhere near the same of even in preseason or whatever. So when he gets out there and he's having to face guys coming at him, how does he react? Is he able to get away? Does he have the speed? Does he have any kind of speed? Is he going to be a total pocket quarterback now? That's a thing. I mean, Josh McCown, we know he can move around a little bit. I mean, we know what he did for the team. He put him in positions to win last year. I know he made mistakes and stuff like that, but that's the thing. At least you can't say Josh McCown didn't put you in positions to win last year, which is something you have to look at when I know they're not trying to win games. I know that, technically they know that they're kind of trying to build that team from the ground up, and they're probably going to be bad for a while, but you still want to win at the end of the day. I mean,
yeah.
Man.
I agree with you totally, and they're trying. They're going to do everything they can to win, but some things are investments, and it just depends on what you want and you have to have now.
And speaking of investment, I mean the Jets still have not made the enough investment to get Ryan Fitzpatrick to sign a deal, so he's still there on the outs. You've got Geno Smith, you've got Bryce Petty, you got Christian Hackenberg. Do you see it being Geno Smith then, or do they try to bring somebody else in? Say, wait till one of these other quarterbacks gets ditched, and they bring him in as a starter, or do you think they go with one of the rookies and just put him out there?
I think the first step in this is they're going to try to find another veteran. I really don't know unless they really have any thought process about Geno. But that has not been confirmed, and at this stage of the game, it should have been confirmed already. That's a big deal for me. That spells trouble for anyone else, especially Geno Smith. So I think that they're going to be looking around and seeing who they can get. Find somebody out there that they feel like can get them through this season until they can get their legs on straight when it comes to that position. So I'm looking forward to seeing it. But yeah, it's kind of difficult.
Man, when it comes to that, it's just hard for me to. You know what you get with Geno Smith. I know with the rookies, that's total anomaly. But man, there's got to be somebody out there. Like, if you have to mess with a trade to get even a Mike Glennon, or if you try to get Josh McCown from the Browns, or Brian Hoyer was the perfect guy you could have went and tried to grab, but he's already been signed. It's starting to sort of wean down there. If you're really looking for a veteran, you might have to pull the trigger on something you don't want to, just to get one in there.
Exactly, and the other date is, I think it's the 1st or June 1st is when they allow teams to start releasing more players, and that's probably the time where they're going to go do cuts. And some of these teams that are drafted quarterbacks are not going to feel like they need 2 other veteran quarterbacks on their team, and they'll let one go. So That's a good also time to watch out for your quarterbacks.
Yeah, I mean, interesting for sure. So, now we talk about defensive rookie of the year. Who do you think could be the offensive rookie of the year? I know everybody's going to say Ezekiel Elliott seems to be the surefire guy, but you have any other thoughts? Or
Well, if I'm going to have to be unbiased here, I think another guy could be in the NFC East, and that's Dotson. I think he's a really talented kid, and I think he's going to be a big asset to the Redskins.
Yeah, I think Josh Dawson would be one of the other ones. I think Laquan Treadwell, if Bridgewater seems to get a chemistry with him, we already know he has one with Diggs. If he can get him in there in the end zone at least and score a lot of touchdowns, that will put him in the running. I think Elliott is it's one of those easiest things because you know what he's running behind. He's running behind that line. If he does well, you'd expect he gets a lot of the carries. He can catch the passes. He blocks, so you don't want to take him out. And then, you got Tony Romo back there. If he stays healthy, it's only going to make Elliott's job easier as a running back. And he's in a great position to be the guy that racks up yards and touchdowns and points and everything else that you look at when you're saying, okay, this is your offensive rookie of the year. He did all this in 1 year. He's that guy that's kind of primed for that. It's hard for me. Other than that, it would have to be like one of these running backs, or other than like Will Fuller, just gets a bunch of touchdowns because he goes down those 9 routes and just Osweiler keeps finding him. It would have to be just kind of out of nowhere kind of thing. It's possible. Corey Coleman and RG3 could hook up and do pretty well too, but I think one of those three that we kind of mentioned first, it's kind of in the running between them. Obviously, I guess the quarterbacks would have to be thrown in there. Could Jared Goff do that as well? Could he be a standout for the Rams? We never know. Who knows? He could come out there in his first year and be amazing. Saying that Carson Wentz, if he plays at all, they could both be amazing or they could be bad in their first years.
No, definitely. You just don't.
I think another interesting thing here is for the Buffalo Bills. We know their contract situation with Tyrod Taylor. They're not in any kind of rush to work on the deal. They tried. Seems like they're going to let him just play out this season. We know Tyrod Taylor, the way that he runs, and he doesn't necessarily he's not a pocket guy. He seems to kind of get out of the pocket and then throw. We know he has guys to throw to, which isn't the problem. But do you see where he gets injured during the season? Say Cardale Jones comes in. Do you think that we can have a situation where Cardale Jones takes over, and considering that situation with Tyrod Taylor, just Taylor doesn't get the team back?
I think that's the best scenario for him to get on the field. Other than that, no, I don't. I think it's going to come down to the fact that even if it's Tyrod Taylor, if it's another starting quarterback, if they cannot compete, if they can't get in there or do what they're used to being able to do, I think you could see that happen. But for the most part, I don't really think that Cardale Jones is going to be completely ready. And I'm not sold that they're ready to throw him out there to the Wolves.
Yeah, I don't think they are either. I think that the Bills have all the leverage here with that contract with Taylor. If he's healthy the whole year, you obviously, you want to put your team in the best position to win. And so you're going to go with Taylor. Now, if he gets hurt, then, that's one of those things. If Jones does well, do you replace him? And then that's when, Rex Ryan has to make that choice, and Greg Roman have to make that choice. Do they do it? We'll see if that becomes an issue. But I just think at some point, I don't know that Cardale Jones. I know he changed his the way he holds the ball and all that kind of stuff to kind of make it better for him. But just Taylor has that experience, and you can't teach that.
Nope. No, you can't.
The defense for Pittsburgh is obviously a thing that people have been coming to question. They drafted Artie Burns. They tried to shore up. They had Shazier play really well last year. James Harrison is coming back. Do you see Pittsburgh improving defensively this year, or are these guys not going to pan out as well as it looks like they could?
I think really what we're looking at here is the fact that they really went and made their defense faster through this draft. Are every member of this draft going to stick around for this next season? I don't think so. But I think they got some great players here. I think they got some guys that kind of were steals in the linebacking corps, and of course, when it comes to getting out there and finding safeties and corners that really can cover the ball and making sure that they're fast enough to get down from point A to point B in the box. They kind of got a good group here. So I think they did make their defense better. Now, is it leaps and bounds? I can't tell you that right now because I have no idea how these guys are going to turn out. But I think this is a good start, but I'm not sold that this defense has went from, being really, just okay to great. I think they're about, average right now as they sit.
Well, we talked about the running backs for the Broncos already. Let's just entertain that idea. We know Mark Sanchez has that reputation. How long is the leash for Mark Sanchez?
Ooh, that's a good question. And the leash for Sanchez, I think it's it gets to get into the season, and
knowing who Paxton Lynch is and knowing what he's going to have to learn a lot.
I think if the first 6 games come around and they only win 2 of them, trust me, I think Paxton Lynch's name starts getting hot and heavy when it comes to the coaching staff and, of course, the fans and the organization.
Yeah. I would not be surprised at all if, like Gary said, that happens. You also want to have a guy that you're going to have for a while, that's somebody that you're grooming. You know what you're teaching him. You know what he's learning. You want to see what you have, obviously, because you made that trade to get him. You made the big deal to make sure that you brought him in. And you kind of know what Mark Sanchez is going to be. And you know what his ceiling is. And if you have a guy like a Paxton Lynch who, again, from all accounts, basically what they feel is sort of a second Brock Osweiler, if he can become that, then your team should be fine with all the. They lost some defensive guys, obviously, but they kept a lot of their core together, so you would expect that they would still be in the hunt for playoff spots and all that. Now, if you put yourself in a hole there at a 2-4 or 2-5 or something like that, it might be a little bit too insurmountable for Paxton Lynch, but at least if he can close the gap, you got something for next year.
Definitely.
Well, anything from any other teams that you can think of that say, okay, man, I really think we need to discuss this right here?
I look, just kind of thinking off the top of my head, San Diego is a team, we saw Bosa go number 1 with them, and we saw a few other things when it comes to the draft. But I still question their defense, question how good they're going to be on that side of the ball. So that's a really big question mark for me. I think
I think Bosa certainly improves them. We saw Manti Te'o get better last year as the season went on, kind of sort of become that captain there for them. I think they'll definitely improve with Bosa there, but will the rest of the defense step up and play? I know they really wanted Jalen Ramsey to kind of pair over there with Verrett. And but they decided on the pass rusher, so Let's see. They still got they don't have a replacement for Eric Weddle right now, so that's something that you got to keep in mind as well for the Chargers. And I think their biggest problem was last year they just put Phillip Rivers into too many problems with the offensive line and all that stuff. So let's see. They obviously did not go that route, at least with that first pick that we thought they were. So let's see if Phillip Rivers gets helped at all in that department. And speaking of, he won't get a lot of help from Melvin Gordon because he had microfracture knee surgery. And usually that means you're out for a while.
Oh, yeah.
So,
Oof. Tough deal.
It could be Danny Woodhead and whoever. And that's, you drafted Melvin Gordon number 15 and already problems again after that lackluster first year. So, what do you think? I mean,
it's a shame for the kid. I mean, I know he was excited about playing this year and getting things started, but I mean, these things happen, and he's had some recurring issues, so this shouldn't be anything new to him.
Yeah, hopefully he comes back and actually gets to play and everything, because you hate to hear that already I don't know if you can call him a bust, but it sucks that he's having such a serious surgery already and such a short playing career, so. But yeah, I think, that sort of wraps it up here for us. Like we talked about already, I mean, there's not a whole lot going on other than you want to break down rookie minicamps from footage that they're just this is like,
oh boy.
I mean, we can talk all day about is this draft pick going to work out? Is it not? You're still just a lot of conjecture about using college information that we don't know if it's going to translate to NFL or not. Just I think, and I want to preface this by saying that as far as we know, as long as nothing has changed, and I have not talked to Randy's going-to-be partner in crime, Mike Mitchell, about this at all, about how far they are. And the reason why we haven't really done anything fantasy-wise is because looks like we're going to have a fantasy football to the Max podcast that Randy's going to do with a friend of his. And so we're trying to get ourselves in that mode of we won't really be doing fantasy stuff much on this podcast. So kind of trying to keep it to the football side so that there's a reason to have the Fantasy Football to the Max show with Randy and Mike talking about it. And, hopefully Gary can do stuff with them there. And you get people's perspective that way, a total fantasy-focused show, and we can keep it to the actual what really happens on the field part of the show. But here's what's going to happen with these. I know we've gone to this two-show format. If there's enough stuff for us to at least do a 30-minute show, and it's actual news and we can kind of get into it and talk about it or whatever, then we might do a show on Thursdays. If there is nothing that week, then we will not do a show on Thursday and we'll just come back on, the following Monday, or we might, if just for sure we know we will have one on Monday. I'm not going to give you a for sure that every Thursday we'll have one because there may be nothing to talk about.
Yeah, exactly.
So we will get back to the double shows again in July when we start doing these the previews, and we'll probably will be one college conference, one show, and then an NFL division, the other show, to cover that week. But we got a few months till July, so we have to really get into that, and I'll be happy. It'll be closer to the season, more to talk about. But like I said, this is one of those times where you just got the lull right now. And not a whole lot going on, and I'm kind of glad. I'm glad we don't have some stupid scandal going on that we're having to talk about for months and months, like the Deflategate last year and
all that
junk.
Jeez.
So, we got the thing with Tom Brady, but we'll find out that whenever we find that out. But yeah, so hopefully if you enjoy the show, rate and review. Hopefully we'll have Randy on next time. He's gotten his Uncharted 4 out of his system. Don't blame him again. That's going to be a great game, and by all accounts it is. Speaking of, I don't know if Mark will have a chance to play it by the time we get to either do the podcast on Tuesday night or Wednesday night. But Video Games to the Max should be there. We already got our Wrestling the Max out there, reviewing that ROH and New Japan Global Wars and talking about those releases that happened and everything else. So plenty to digest on that show. And all the other wrestling shows should have their shows as per usual. And I was on with Randy on the backlog busting and talking Kingdom Hearts Chain Memories. They also did Paper Mario, The 1,000-Year Door, I think. And I don't remember what game Wes had out of my memory. So, but yeah, so maybe Thursday. If not, for sure, we'll be back Tuesday morning. All right, until then, later, everybody.